I am the reason why curriculum work is a thing, since I am a youth and a student. Obviously. So I'm in an organization called Ally, which is a subgroup, and an organization called Apano. And we have been working on an ethnic studies campaign, which is called the Missing Pages of Our History campaign. And it's a campaign to let people of color and their culture, their history, be taught to students about how they've affected youth history and how they've actually, impacted it and made it what it is. So that's what we've been doing. Examples of that is we've been going to Board of Ed meetings. Like I said, I personally have been also talking to Board of Ed meeting, talking just about ethnic studies campaign, why it's important, how it can actually affect students in a positive way. Some things that we've also been doing is we've had a campaign launch, which was in this last October. It was in the Jam space. That's what that is. We basically just told the whole world, like, hey, we're Ally, we're this youth-led organization, and we're having this campaign to let people of color actually be recognized, and they can actually see themselves in curriculum when it's being taught to them. We've also drafted a resolution, which we will be presenting to the Teaching and Learning Committee on April 21st. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll get passed.
That's impressive. Wow. Nice. We've been involved in a lot of different curriculum work. I don't directly supervise our teachers or our curriculum development work within our early college academy. However, I've been involved in some other projects that I can talk about, and I can also talk about, maybe I'll start with our early college academy is a private school that's an alternative education option, and what we really strive to do within our school framework is provide lessons through a Native American cultural lens. And so, for example, if we're teaching about history, we're going to make sure that we're including tribal leaders, classes about tribal sovereignty and laws. If it's an art class, it's going to be a cultural arts class. If it's a language arts class, we're teaching as many Native writers and diverse writers as we can in their works. So I think one overarching goal to keep in mind if you're designing curriculum is to not have this tourist approach where it's just a 1 month of the year that you're focusing on African American history or Native American history, but instead it's something that's the undercurrent and the root of all the work that you're doing. An example of a guide that we've followed really is the Young People's History of the United States, the Howard Zinn work. We've been able to build some really amazing lesson plans through using that material and to really help youth kind of grapple with some moral dilemmas in order to make history come alive and think about contemporarily how they can connect the issues that are happening around them in other parts of the world. We've also designed specific curriculum around sexuality education and as well as domestic violence prevention, and our youth were really involved in that, which was really great. They actually came up with some of the topics that they wanted to see, so they named their curriculum Honoring the Core, which is honoring our core values, which is really wonderful, and we were able to actually take that curriculum and share it with the rest of anybody that really wants to use it, and especially in Indian country because it is culturally specific. So some of the lessons that we can pull out to kind of help our youth understand how much their parents, elders, and ancestors have struggled is we'll go back, like if we're focusing on violence, domestic violence, for example, we'll look back, we'll start like 500 years ago and say this is what it looked like 500 years ago. If there was violence, which it was rare that family violence existed, this is how the tribe dealt with it, and each tribe dealt with violence differently, but the common thread was that the community really came together and supported the survivor, and that there was some re-education happening for people that chose to become violent. So we talk about it, how this is what had happened, and this is how how colonialism affects communities today, and help youth kind of get to the lesson on their own and do some critical thinking, which is often missing, I think, in mainstream schools. So we're really trying to encourage that as much as possible. And then some other ideas, if folks are interested in kind of looking through some resources, we've used the Since Time.
Memorial?
Yeah, Memorial.
The Canadian?
Yeah, we've checked through that, and amazing things going on in Canada. Shout out to our neighbors to the north. And teaching tolerance resources, as well as teaching for change and Edutopia. So there's some really great ideas that you can just get online.
So I don't write curriculum, but on the school board we set policies. So the opportunity I have is to make culturally specific curriculum a priority for Portland Public Schools, and also to make sure that it has the resources the curriculum people need to make it happen. I mean, we are constantly working on curriculum, but it's really from the standpoint of modernizing it to meet standards versus looking at it across this kind of boundary, like what's missing. And I plan to be intimately involved, and one of the reasons I want to be involved is because I see this as a community project led by the community. One of the things that really appeals to me about this is, one, I think a lot of people in the community are talking about it at the same time from different places, and then two, particularly in the Ally situation, it's students that are coming forward and saying, we want this. And they're really well organized, really polite, really knowledgeable. And it's sort of like as it should be. And I really want to be a part of it so I can honor them defining what's needed so we can achieve their goals. And I already see on the school board and in the district this sort of quick flip of that, which is, okay, so you need culturally specific curriculum, give us a year and we'll give it to you. And it is hard culturally. I think it will be challenging culturally for administrators and educators to look at it differently, but this will be developed over time. And led by the community. And as I've talked in the community about pushing culturally specific curriculum, everyone around my age has said, you know, what about the baseline essays? You know, and I have to say, this is curriculum was developed in the late 80s. It was for the African American community, the Latino community, the Asian community, and the Native American community. So it's obviously missing LGBTQ, so that's one thing. But there was a lot of effort put into this, and apparently the district, under the direction of Matthew Prophet, brought together, you know, lead educators from around the country to write this curriculum. And the thing that's incredible about it is nobody knows about it because it was never used. It sat on a shelf. I had to ask the district for it. It took them a few weeks to find it and make copies for me. And I mean, look at how much there is. So the point is that it's sort of like, look at how we failed. In 1987, we put an incredible amount of effort into this, and we created something that we never used. The opportunity here is this should be something that's a reference, possibly a starting point. And there are people in the community that worked really hard on this and are still fighting the good fight. But when you talk to them about it, I mean, they're very frustrated because they put all this energy into something that is sat on the shelf. And so I think as we approach this, we have to, you know, honor their work and do something with it, but we have to expand it. So anyway, it's kind of like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
So we've gone to Board of Ed meetings, we've talked about our campaign, and I would say we've actually gotten a pretty positive response, which I'm really glad about. I'm sure Mike can talk about that a little bit too, since he's a big supporter. But I would say that our chances of getting ethnic studies is pretty high. I think that lots of people are a lot more educated on issues that we're not facing, such as lack of history of other cultures. And so I think as more and more people understand that and actually want to do something about that, it's gonna get better. Our curriculum's gonna get better, and I have lots of hope for that. And so I believe that we don't really have very many challenges when it comes to getting it actually like passed. But the only challenge I could see is just like the oppressors. So we all know what those are like. I hope. And so those are the people that are gonna just be like, why is this even important? Like, we already learned about that kind of stuff. And if I were to pull out a book, I'd be like, okay, show me where there's an actual unit talking about Asian American history in a positive way. Or tell me a time where African Americans talked about in a positive way. They can't find anything. And if it is, it's from a teacher that's actually educated about social justice issues and about systemic oppression, and they're going to talk about it and educate their students, because that's what they do. It would be a 2-year process, hopefully. We have a resolution that youth have drafted, so this is going off of that. So it would be a 2-year process of getting ethnic studies into PPS high schools, all of them, so at least one class. And it would look, the 2-year process would look like lots of youth-led organizing, lots of youth-like voice, especially youth of color. So that's what it would look like when it comes to like that kind of stuff. We would have hopefully like a little committee that oversees the whole campaign and the class, and so it would involve teachers and the students and other members of the community, and they would just talk about what they want to see the class to look like. So yeah, the class, and then the actual class, the activities class, would be talking about Asian American history, African American history, Native American history, there's Asian American history, okay, so, and LGBTQ and people of color history. And with those, they would be talking about systems of oppression and how they've been tackled and how they've been overcome and forms of resistance.
So exciting to think this could happen. And this is exactly what I studied in college, the liberal arts school in the East Coast, and it's social justice framework. So to think that our students can get it in Portland, in our high school, it would be amazing. I would hope that there would be a component around some sort of action project, some ways for our youth to get involved and make a difference, because when they're learning about these issues that are affecting, their families, their communities, they have a deep love for their communities and they want to do something. And so I can see a call to action for our students, or they would, I know that it would come about anyway. There'd be a letter writing campaign, there'd be some sort of way for them to get involved, so that's really exciting.
So I think, from my perspective, it's pretty simple. I want to understand what the community wants. I want them to be able to define what they want and what they need, and then I want to be able to help them communicate that and, identify and mobilize the resources to make it happen. I think when I think about it longer term, I think about wanting to make it clear to the community and the school board and the district that we're not done at an ethnic studies class in every high school. That and this actually came up when I was talking about it with parents. I mean, we want to bring this to the middle school. We want to bring it to the elementary school. I mean, we need to start. This has to go, through the whole K-12 system. So I want to keep that in mind, but I'm really excited about getting it started.
So we need youth at the table when we are talking about issues that affect you. So that would look like kind of just having multiple youth representatives talking about what they want to learn about, talking about what issues they see and how we can fix them as a community. And so adults being the ones that support the youth, but the youth are the ones that are actually kind of leading the way, telling them what to do and how we can fix this problem.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think we were involved in a culturally responsive pedagogy project a couple years ago that was funded through the state, and a piece of that was really authentically interviewing focus groups, surveying our youth to figure out how they felt about school belongingness, like where are they connected, and how did that translate into their learning, how much did they actually feel like they had a say in what was happening in the classroom, how valued was that. And it was, when you bring youth to the table and you ask those questions, you will get the truth, and sometimes it's hard to hear, but that's how you make real change happen. So that's one piece that I think is really important. Secondly, I think if we're going to get better outcomes for our students, we need to start looking at our value systems in general and the differing value systems of our educators that often come from dominant culture and the students that they're teaching. For example, a lot of we're taught in American society, dominant society, to really value individualism and success, looking at success as, getting a place to live, being independent, graduating, being on time, all those types of things. And for the Native American community, it's much different. It's all about relational learning and how you can give back to your community and how you're taking care of your family and really valuing collectivist culture. And so if we can somehow align those two different value systems to really meet the students and their goals and desires for learning, I think that we can come a long way. So that's a piece that I would hope can be ingrained through this. So it's not, and I would really hope that if we do bring ethnic studies or social justice class, that it's not just a class, that it's really interwoven throughout our educational system. We can't just keep doing one-offs because our students deserve more than that.
Yes, I agree with everything. I think in terms of getting started, one of the things that I've talked to Ally about is bringing the students together over the summer and in an internship opportunity to start to prepare, to think about organizationally what's going to happen, to think about what is out there already, models from other communities. But I think it's really about facilitating, trying to help articulate what the goals are, what the substance is, and then facilitate creating a product that works.
So like I've said, just have youth there, just get youth representation, and I think that's one of the main key ideas. But I also think maybe not just youth, but just maybe activists, advocates for other social justice issues, because if you all have been in PBS schools or any kind of school system, lots of issues like racism happen in schools, or just discrimination, not just based off your skin color or whatever, but also because of who you are as a person. So I'm sure the LGBTQ community has gotten lots of made fun of by teachers or by students. So I think just having lots of representation of communities that are very not well represented is just going to help a lot.
Definitely. I think it comes to hiring, right? We need more people of color in our schools, and that starts with more training and teacher programs that recruit people of color to become educators. Inviting not youth to the table for sure, but also partners with lived experience to the table to be in the classroom, to help develop the curriculum, to really share their experience, and then to be, and they need to be compensated for that. And I think, again, it has to be authentic partnership where we're really honoring the knowledge that people have to share.
So I agree with all of that. I think it is really important to talk about the component of creating more diversity in the staff, in the teaching staff. That's a big deal. I think at least 50% of our population of students now are communities of color, high immigrant population. I also think one of the things the district can do, and I just think about this from a personal perspective, is, and some of this is being done, I think, through courageous conversations, but create an opportunity for a dialogue with the teachers and administrators to, about why this is important and why it's needed. I do think that, I mean, some of the conversations I've had, and this probably isn't going to surprise people in the room. Some people think it already exists. Some people think it's easy to develop. Some people just want to develop it because it's easy to develop. And some people don't yet value why it's important. And I think that's okay. I just think we need to have a forum to lead people through that. The reality is the demographics are changing rapidly. The United States looks different, our schools look different. And when I've talked about equity, what I've said is, and I think this isn't, not always readily accepted, it takes hard work and time. And usually you don't do it unless you see some value in it. And so unless you see the value in strengthening the diversity of our programs, I think you're going to be less exuberant and motivated to do it. So I think we have to create some space and opportunity for people to really talk about what's happening in our community, why that diversity is of great value, and how this is going to support that. So, great.
That they are able to become activists, advocates, and other just leaders in our community, and are able to stand up for what they believe in and other issues such as the Black Lives Matter movement. So I want to see more, not just Black people, but I want to see more like other people. Like I want to see more Asian people, I want to see more white people, I want to see more everyone, just be able to be educated on these kind of things and take action.
Awesome. I know that if we do this, it will increase cultural identity for our young people. And we know that with increased cultural identity comes positive school belongingness, greater outcomes for graduation rates, greater outcomes in life in general, and greater hope. Those are all very important things. Our youth, we just did a community forum recently at NAN. We were talking about health equity issues, and our young people said, it's important for us to learn about our own culture, but we want to learn about others. We want to learn what's happening in the world and what's affecting, our brothers and sisters of different backgrounds. And, our youth are becoming more and more multicultural as well. And so I think that this can only do amazing things in terms of the identity enhancement that's going to come out of it. And then the other great outcome is going to be that our young people are going to be able to live to their full potential and be able to really offer, we're going to be able to see the value in what they have, because they will be activists, they will be moving things and keep pushing the rest of us to make change, which is what we really need.
So I think those are all great points. And in terms of the school board or the school district, one of the big things that's in it for us is what was just said, that in terms of achievement gap, the achievement gap is big between white students and students of color, and I believe that a lot of that has to do with, and I think studies have shown this, has to do with kids not being engaged because they don't see curriculum that's relevant. So in terms of a big picture outcome, I would like to see students feeling valued and motivated because they believe their curriculum reflects their culture and it interests them, makes them more active participants in their education. One of the things that I've had to learn working in government is that it's not enough to say that you want to work with an underrepresented community and then say, okay, invite them to your meeting. Working with underrepresented community means first understanding what their culture is and meeting them where their culture is. And that's hard because it takes longer. It's something that's foreign to you. But what I think is really important is it does change your perspective and how you make decisions. And there's room for some change in perspective. You were talking about a more community-driven approach, a less individualistic approach. Well, when again, going back to my reference, the state of the environment, I think a lot of the challenges we face with the environment comes from that very individualistic approach. And I think we have to learn to live differently, and I think one of the ways that's going to happen is being more multicultural, learning about it, and students, our next generation, just like really embracing it, seeing it as something that adds value to their lives rather than as like this is something I have to do to get by. So I look forward to that.
So, as I've said, we are going to be presenting our Ethnic Studies campaign, Ally, to the Teacher and Learning Committee on April 21st. And if it gets passed, fingers crossed, we will be then presenting it to the Board of Education. And we would like to see all of you come support Ally and just cheer us on if it hopefully does get passed. Another thing is if any of you know any API youth, or if you are API youth yourself, and if you think they would be a good member to be an ally, then you can come talk to me. I can give you all the information, all the details, and we would love to see them.
I definitely want to support that call to action. And then my other, I think many of you have probably read Howard Zinn's work, but I just would suggest you go back and read it again, because you'll be inspired all over again. And I'll just offer a quote here. So, education becomes most rich and alive when it confronts the reality of moral conflict in the world. And that's from his book, You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train.
So those are great calls to action, so I just want to reinforce a couple of them. So I'm positive that the resolution for culturally relevant curriculum is going to go to the full school board. But it's always great when people come to the school board and say they want this. And I believe it's going to be great to have students there, but it'll be great to have adults there. And it'll be great to have a diverse population, young, old, representing all the communities we have. And just, either being there in the audience or signing up to say something positive. Because the next step is implementation, and a resolution is just a piece of paper. So the next call to action from my perspective is make sure, because right now Portland Public Schools is reviewing their $600 million budget. And the question is, how much of that $600 million is going to be allocated to support this? And it doesn't have to be a big chunk of that, but there should be something very explicit that shows the commitment of the board in dollars and in staff to support this effort, because it will need support. So that's it. That's where I keep telling everyone, the rubber hits the road. We can have a resolution pass. Now we have to provide the resources to see that it's implemented. So that's the next place. You're all, you all contribute to the Portland Public Schools budget. You all have a say in what the priorities are for spending. And this would be a good thing to advocate for in that forum as well. So.
Let's first get some applause for our panel. Do we have any questions from folks here? You want to just shout it out?
So do you guys know when you'd be going in front of the Board of Education? Or when we can find out more about that?
I don't know, it's to be announced, but maybe our buddy might hold out.
So the meeting in the Teaching and Learning Committee is next week, and so the expectation is they would refer that resolution to the board. So it would be sometime in May. And there was a sign-up sheet coming in here, right? And so maybe that could be used to, send out a couple of messages so people know. So probably sometime in May. And then also sometime in May, there'll be several community budget hearings for the school budget. There'll also be budget hearings for the city budget. And so there are opportunities during those meetings for people to testify and say what you want your money spent on. So maybe we can, just send out some general information. These are when the school board budget hearings are, and specifically when the resolution's gonna go before the school board.
And there's a site to go to for that, can the Know Your City site have the information quick?
Well, the school board, if you go to the PPS website, there's gonna be information coming up about the hearings for the school or the community meetings on the school budget. And then there's a board part of the website that posts the agenda for the coming meeting. So every Friday, you should be able, we meet roughly every other week. So if you go to that website, you can see what's on the agenda. It would probably just be easier if when we knew when it was happening, we send something out, otherwise we'll just dig a little deeper. But that's the place you go and you can see what's on the agenda.
I was trying to make it simpler by going to one site.
Yeah, good for you, so I should shut up.
Because some people won't go through that.
Yeah, I know, I
They
agree,
won't,
I agree.
But they want to know about it, and they'll only go to one thing, like coming to this meeting. So,
Well, you guys have a Facebook page, don't you?
Check out our Facebook page. We'll post it. Solution.
And Ally, you have a Facebook page too,
Yeah,
don't you?
it's called Ally, A-L-L-Y. A Family of the Liberation of Youth. Check us out. I mentioned also information. So yeah, another thing is we're going to be going to every Board of Ed meeting up until not just the Teaching and Learning Committee meeting, but also until the resolution will be passed. So if you are unable to attend that meeting in May, you can come to any other meeting and just support Ally.
Great. Other questions?
Yes, so I'm so excited for the ethnic studies proposal, but I'm also curious as to how we keep pushing on re-examining the general curriculum. And I'd like to give an example of this. My stepdaughter is in the 5th grade and they're doing the Lewis and Clark Expedition Unit. And while there's lots of materials about the various Native groups encountered, it is still from the perspective of the expedition. And as a doctoral candidate in history myself, I know there's a whole world of scholarship about the 18th century Native Northwest. And you could teach that as a world into which white Americans begin to come, and yet that's not, my stepdaughter's teacher is doing the best he can, but the materials he has is about the perspective of the expedition and about making an American, meaning white American nation. And so that to me is a great example of something that's in elementary school that's part of the general curriculum that really needs work. And so how do we keep pushing on that?
can I say something? Because this is going to answer my questions I won't have to ask. Because what you're talking about is in direct conflict with what's being taught. And that's the problem that's going to be faced right there, which is going to be the problem of implementing anything, which was the problem with the stack of books you have in front of you. So maybe that conversation is another conversation that for people to get together and have sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's sitting right there.
Right.
Can you give those other two people copies of what you have in front of you?
No, because that would be a waste of paper, but I have sent to Cameron and to Karn, and I can make this available to anyone else.
That's
The
Karn.
link-
That's
yeah.
okay.
A link where you can look at all this online. And I encourage people to do it, start looking at this. And you raised a really good point, as I was talking to people in the community about this, and I mentioned this issue about, one of the things the administration needs to do is create space for the teachers to buy into this and the administrators. One of the big problems with this was after it was written, we hired people in the community to acclimate the teaching community to this, to get their buy-in. And I'm sure there were a lot of teachers that were excited about it, but there was a fair amount of resistance. And that became a problem. And so that's a mistake also that we need to correct. We need to have the buy-in as we go through it. We need to have the discussions now about why this is important so that people are ready to receive it.
And be re-educated, because that was the big, I was teaching in schools when that came out. And they didn't want to go through the process.
Right, that's what I heard.
And I want to second that, because Know Your City, we also started a campaign in January called Our Stories Matter. So we are 100% of support of the work that Ally and Apollo is doing around ethnic studies in high school. We see the problem is much bigger than that. We do recognize, especially when we hear from people in the community, most of the complaints are about what's happening with Oregon Studies, Lewis and Clark, Wharton Play, everything else. It's so limited, it's so misrepresentative. And that's really where we put our focus at with our campaign called Our Stories Matter. And that's really a call upon the city, the county, and PBS to all actually put in serious financial commitment to make sure that organizations such as our own and other culturally responsible organizations such as NAIA, Basic Rights Oregon, we actually have resources to work with teachers, youth, culturally responsible communities, and really target that curriculum. We saw back in 2013, the state legislature passed Senate Bill 739, which urged, which is not really language at all, but it urged the Department of Education to change the Oregon Studies standards. Because currently, there is a standard that you must teach Oregon Studies between 3rd and 5th grade. What that is, nobody really knows. And what we know when it comes to saying, well, teach math in this grade or teach your curriculum in this grade, it kind of goes up to teachers for interpretation. So we have this culture of what's being taught, and what we've seen for generations, teachers supporting each other, mentoring each other, it's now created this block where teachers know, and when they become teachers, kind of know, here's the stuff that we do. And it is hard to change that culture, because we don't have any kind of concerted effort to change that culture. I do want to call out a lot of great organizations who've been doing this work around culturally-specific pedagogy, such as Teaching with Purpose. We have groups like the what's Linda Christensen's? The Writing Project. The Writing Project.
Yes,
Rethinking Schools.
And Rethinking Schools as well. So we do have some great work going on, but it's not at a systemic level. And we really need to see people like our State Department of Education, our school district, but also our local governments taking it seriously that we do have the resources to engage teachers, because teachers also have to be put to the table. They are really the ones who are the front lines of teaching our students this, and we're failing to do that right now. So the problem is that, yes, this is a big problem, I'm glad you brought it up, and we need to address that with a big solution.
To the student at the table, you're very impressive, and I'm proud to hear from you. Are there ally groups in every high school?
Ally isn't like a club at schools. It's this organization in Apano.
Oh, it's in Apano. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so we have students from Franklin High School. We have students from Benson, like myself. We have 2 middle school students who will be in high school next year. We have 2 college students. So we have some students from Roosevelt, Cleveland, pretty well-rounded. We're getting, well-rounded in PBS, so.
Yeah, Apano is just a very, very impressive organization that's just taken off. To Mike, you said something really accurate with your last statement, where you said, you know, there's some people took on the essays and learned about how to implement them, but then you mentioned the problem. Well, that problem has not gone away in our schools in this district. And I think somebody's got to take a look at this. There are too many people that will not get on board. Courageous Conversations was this little thing, ripple, that went across the top, and a few people kind of got some stuff out of it, and then boom, where is it? Get behind the equity department. Give them support, not just money, but give them support, and everybody should be working together on this out of the equity department. You got some really good people there, and this needs to happen in every school. But these teachers that push back on something as valued as a human being in their classroom or in their school is wrong, and somebody at the head needs to do something about it. Whether it's retraining, whether it's get the heck out of here, whatever it is, it's wrong.
Yeah, and so I agree with you, Colleen. Colleen and I go way back, so it's not unusual for people to speak and feel scared that I better get my stuff. You're right, I agree with you.
I'm following you, Mike.
I know.
I'll piggyback on to Colleen. So this is kind of to Mike again.
Can you identify who you are?
Yes, I'm Lynn Allers. I'm a teacher at Cleveland High School.
And part of Rethinking Schools.
Yes.
And I've seen her at the Northwest Teaching for Social Justice Conference.
Right. Thank you. So one of the things to kind of piggyback with what Colleen was saying too is we used to have a great system of professional leadership that Linda Christensen and Bill Bigelow were part of, where teachers left their buildings, went to other schools, had students teaching them about what they were interested in learning, had teachers that were teaching with social justice and teaching with care and teaching with equity, also part of that. And that's all been gone. That was kind of disseminated when Vicki came through. It has not been restored. We're still having to do professional development in the building. It grows very stagnant. We don't get to talk to other people. And I would really like to push you to rethink how could we get that system back, because really kind of what Colleen is saying is absolutely true, even as a teacher. I hate talking disparagingly about teachers, but we need to rethink how we are doing leadership and professional development, because what's been going on since Vicki and now even Carol isn't working.
Well, and that's why this has to be systemic. I mean, it's not just about writing a curriculum, it's about engaging the teachers and making them part of the solution. It's about looking at professional development. There are all sorts of layers. I do want to say, Lynn, that I agree with you, that's very compelling, but I didn't feel the sense of fear when I heard you sing it, but I did when I heard I like to imagine Colleen.
I'll work on it.
I'm getting older, time is short.
Maturity may have less filter.
What was the name of that program?
It was our professional development. That was,
Show up and do the work.
well, we had to leave our buildings and so you
And
were kind of.
collaborate.
Exactly. Yeah.
MPBS.
Right, and so you
We
were.
get together as a cluster.
Yeah.
So all my artist people,
Yep.
we would all be in the same room and talk about what was going on and each school and what was going on and how we could help each other.
Right. And it was often interdisciplinary,
Yes.
right? Like it wasn't just these little departments doing separate things. Yeah.
Question in the back from Lucy Clark. I'm
I
familiar with the other Lucy Clark we were talking about earlier.
So I have a question. Our class we are in reimagining learning and teaching, and we talk a lot around like standardized testing and how it's hindering to teachers to teach. And I guess I wanted to know like whether that would affect ethnic studies in any way, and would that be, and also I guess the second question would be, would ethnic studies be a requirement to graduate as well?
In Bingo.
I have my own opinion on it. But that's a different topic. But so, when ethnic studies first gets implemented, it'll be a elective. And then after like a year or so, it'll be reevaluated by that same committee I talked about. Another like people in the community, and it'll be talked about, and hopefully it will be a social studies class, so it's required, so that every, high school student will, whether they like it or not, they're gonna have to learn about other ethnicities and other cultures, and they're gonna have to learn about systems of oppression and social justice issues. So yes, in an ideal world, it will eventually be like a Common Core class, and yeah.
Yeah, so I just totally agree. I mean, if we value it, it should be a core competency. I mean, so if we're a multicultural society, and to be a high-functioning multicultural society, that means understanding those multiple cultures.
Right.
It's a core competency, and so we have to get there. We're starting now, but I think that would be such an enormous step to say that you graduate from public school as multiculturally literate.
So, you're working on it. See you dance. Know Your City, as part of our campaign, we've spent a lot of time engaging teachers, especially working with the local teacher unions. We've had support from Employment Association teachers. Last year we actually attended the regional assembly for OEA. We're going to be there again this weekend, actually doing a survey and really listening to the folks who are on the ground and have to deal with that question of Common Core. And I think it's a challenge. I think it's something that people, when it comes to anything they want to teach, and it's all limited by what's happening with the administration, what's happening with Common Core. And when it comes to the conversation of this being able to be mandated, it is a challenge because we still have to deal with Common Core and even the new evaluation that the governor is bringing in. We have a whole new leadership, a whole new, we used to have the whatever education bill was gone.
Education investments.
Yeah, that's gone. We're doing some kind of new oversight, so I think there's a lot of questions and concerns people have. And I think it's going to be challenging to make something like inclusive cultural studies or ethnic studies mandated. Because I think people are already so done with mandates, and if we're not sure if we can make sure that teachers are at the table when we talk about whatever this is that we're mandating, it's going to be a challenge. So we have to be very intentional, making sure that we're all brought together as stakeholders if we're ever going to make this a universal program.
So another thing to think about too in terms of a call to action is, so No Child Left Behind was just redone, overhauled. And so now it's Every Student Succeeds Act. And so there's opportunities, and I was talking to a teacher about this today, for the states to have more control. And a question we can all ask is, under the Every Student Succeeds Act and the current efforts of the Oregon Department of Education to create a plan to implement that, how are we? How do they intend to incorporate ethnic studies or culturally relevant curriculum? So this is another opportunity that exists to kind of force this issue. So.
Any other questions? Of course.
Who else in the district is a front runner for this taking place besides you?
Well, I know that Julia Sparza Brown's working on it. I think generally the full board is very supportive. I'll say that in the kickoff event, I attended that. Another board member, Paul Anthony, attended. Amy Constam attended. How many board members have you met with? I came to meet with you with Steve Buell. Let's identify any board members who have never met with you.
Here's the mic.
So more than half record. More than half.
I will say is because Ally's doing this great job of reaching out to them. And I think it was even kind of eerie when I went to your first meeting. You had like 8 by 11 photographs
Oh my gosh.
into the wall. And it was like one of those scenes from, Thriller where, I was waiting to see the threads with the little thumbtacks going across the school board members.
Oh, my God.
They're very intentional in terms of targeting us, so they're doing a great job. Whose idea was that?
I don't know. I came to a meeting one day and I saw a bunch of old people and I was like, what?
But Ally's very smart, and we knew who we needed to talk to if we wanted to get it done. So we weren't gonna go talk to, people that are kind of like there. We want people that are behind the scenes, the big people, the big dogs, to make decisions. So
Big old dog.
So we knew we needed to talk to Board of Ed members. I just want to say that, like, on a positive note, I actually do think a lot of, even though I haven't talked to a lot of Board of Ed members, I think a lot of them were really, like, okay, like, positive, like, gave me positive feedback, like, just, like, head nods, and, like, especially, like, Carol Smith, when I went to the Board of Ed meeting, she was, like, making direct eye contact with me, and she was shaking her head, and she, like, was, like, writing down notes and stuff, so, like, I just want to say, like, even though I haven't talked to a lot of them, I think a lot of them are pretty, like, cool with it.
I think that's a really good point, because from being on both sides of the table, being behind the table with the board members, and then being out there testifying, you really can tell when they're actively listening. And I am very proud to say the board actively listens when Ally comes, and that's a good thing. And so I think that's really worth noting, because you can just tell we don't always do it, and so that's a good way to judge impact.
Can I ask a question? Do you have like a social media campaign that we can all get behind as well?
We have a Facebook page. We don't really have like a social, not yet, but we've talked about this.
We do, we already started.
Oh, great. I don't know about it.
I think right now we're having all our students post on, it's on our Ally Facebook page every day. We're having a student just hold up a sign about why they support ethnic studies for their own personal reasons. An example would be like one of our students said, I support ethnic studies because I just want to learn about my peoples. Just put that up on Facebook, and we're going to be posting it up every day leading up to the board vote. And also, if folks want to be a part of that, we would love our allies to also take pictures. If you want to send them to us. If you want your face to be shown to other young people of color in Portland, you can follow Karina, and she can give you more information on our Facebook stuff.
So yeah, we talked about like other things we want to do, like making like a hashtag or like making like a cool like thing. I thought of the idea of like being like so I don't know if y'all heard of like the Dan Daniel thing. Yeah. Okay, so this is like a great idea. So I was like thinking of like going up to like my friend, making a video being like, so like this girl like Jessica being like, damn Jessica, back at it again with the ethnic studies campaign. I thought about that. Yeah, you guys can like take a picture of yourself, saying why you support ethnic studies if you do, and then I don't know, add me on Facebook, send it to me. You'll be famous. It'll be great.
Even us old people. Even us old people.
Sounds like we are here. We're done. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending.